Thank you for staying tuned. It's Citizen FM 93.7 and it's Insight. My name is Lawrence Umoette. Since the restoration of democratic rule in 1999, the National Assembly has been said to be on a learning process that has witnessed the election and removal of presiding officers and other dramas. There have always been agitations from Nigerians on the role of the lawmakers. This set of Nigerians often wonder how the roles of the parliament impact on the lives of citizens. Attention most times is seen on the budget of the legislature, how much they earn, the type of cars they drive, and other things. The National Assembly as a third arm of government is considered the weakest link in government, perhaps because of our long history of military rule. It is important to pay attention to the performance of this arm of government, both at the federal and the state level. And that's the focus of Insight today. My guest is Jide Ojo, a media and socio-political analyst, an author, and a columnist. Welcome to Insight, Jide.
It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Together with Jide, we shall be exploring a lot of issues surrounding the National Assembly, its operation, its history, its challenges, and so many other issues concerning the National Assembly. But we'll take a short break, and Insight will be back in just a moment. Please don't go away.
WaveX Pleasure Ride. Here at last. Join the safest, classiest, and cheapest taxi ride in town. WaveX Taxi Ride for absolute safety and comfort. Available in over 500 cities in Nigeria, Africa, Europe, and America. Download the app now from the Google Store.
Thank you for staying tuned. It's Insights on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Umoette. We have Jide Ojo in the studio. He's our guest for today, and together we shall be interrogating all the issues, or most of the issues surrounding the National Assembly as an arm of government. Now, Jide, over the years, there have been a lot of activities, a lot of issues surrounding the operations of the National Assembly, and I know that you are very familiar with the operations of the National Assembly. Now, let's start by looking at a general assessment. We know that the National Assembly has roles of oversight, of lawmaking and representation, but generally, let's start from your general impression of how the National Assembly has fared over the years.
Well, National Assembly has... First, we need to understand that the legislative arm is the most important arm of government because it is composed of the representatives of the people. And when you look at it numerically, you see that if you weigh the number of positions in the executive arm and that of judiciary and that of the legislature has a higher number of positions or seats, as we may want to call it. Take for instance, there are 8,809 councillorship position. Many people don't know that councillorship is an elective, it's a legislative arm. When you say somebody is a councillor, that is the legislative arm of the local government. Many of us don't advance our mind to it because we feel that when somebody is called councillor, that means is holding executive power. No, it's a legislative power. They are the one that makes bylaw, that pass the budget at the local government. Then you move on to the state level. We have 993 state houses of assembly members in the 36 states, 993. Then you come to the National Assembly. There are 496 members of the National Assembly, comprising of 109 senators and 360 members of House of Representatives. So then the fact that the representation makes the work of a lawmaker most important. Many of us cannot access our governors, even our local government chairperson, let alone the president. I've been in Abuja for over 20 years. I've never physically met President Buhari, and I come to town every day. I pass by Aso Rock, but many can access the constituency office of their senators, of members of House of Reps, or even the State House of Assembly or councillors. So that's one side. Two, in the Nigerian political climate, quite unfortunately, as important as the legislative arm is, it is the most undermined. It is the most undermined to the extent that the 29 cumulative years that we had military interregnum or military rule, for those years, there were no legislative arm. The military, on assumption of duty, will suspend the constitution and will house, the legislative arm, rather than allowing the legislative arm to exist. They will rather rule by decrees that are passed by the whether you call it Supreme Military Council or Armed Forces Ruling Council, or by whatever name you may want to call it. And at the state level, they just pass what is called edict to govern the state. So they don't allow the legislative arm to function. But the judicial arm is allowed. They allow the judiciary. They allow, of course, the executive arm. That is what has undermined the performance of the Nigerian legislative arm. Only in this Fourth Republic have we had an uninterrupted 23 years of the existence of the legislative arm at the three tiers of government, and of course at the National Assembly level. So gradually the Nigerian legislature is getting back its groove, it's consolidating, and it has made some giant strides. For instance, the National Assembly is now on the first line charge on the Consolidated Revenue Fund. So, which means their funding goes to them directly to manage, just the same way as the National Judicial Council or the judicial arm of government at the national level. Then, when you look at their core responsibilities, for the National Assembly now, more pointedly, the National Assembly has done fairly in the sense that, given the background that they've been casualty on a number of times, they are just groping to get their acts together. And apart from military interregnum, what has also impacted negatively on the performance of our National Assembly, and indeed the entire legislative arm in Nigeria, is high turnover of members of this arm. I did write in my column in the Punch last week about the concerns on the high turnover of members of Nigeria's legislative arm. At every election, 70 to 80% of lawmakers don't get to return. And this makes it very difficult for democratic consolidation and strengthening of the institution of lawmaking in Nigeria. Unlike in the case of the executive, unless there is an offset, a governor in Nigeria more often than not will do a two-term. Only in very few instances will you say a governor sought re-election and lost. So to that extent, while you may be talking of high turnover in the legislative arm, there is nothing like that in the executive arm. Most, if not all, those who seek re-election into this into the governorship position will most likely win. Even at the presidential level, they will most likely, even at the level of chairman of councils, once they get the ticket, they will most likely win. And although the good thing I must also flag is that unlike the executive that has maximum term limit of 4 years of 2 terms, which is maximum of 8 years in power, the legislative arm has an indefinite, can be there for decades, provided these people keep returning. And we have example in the president of the Senate who has been there for 23 years now, and also a member representing Patani and State House, Patani federal constituency in the House of Reps, who has also been there since 1999. You do not have, and those are just few examples you can cite.
Those are exceptions.
Those are the exceptions. In many instances, only a fraction of every member will get re-elected. So, to that extent, it has impacted negatively on their output, because after every election, they have to start learning the ropes again. They have to start de novo, as they say in law. You start afresh to build capacities, to tell them what is standing order, to tell them how to draft bill, how to move motion, how to make resolution, how to go on oversight, what to look for at oversight, how to, even the constituency office will change. You have to look for new staff. There is no continuity, because instead of the constituency office staff to be there for like 35 years, in which case they are the bureaucracy arm of every lawmaker comes with their own aid, and it is from those aids that they appoint people to man their constituency office. So if your principal did not get the elected, it means that whatever capacity that has been built for those constituency office or for those parliamentary aids goes with them, and the new person who comes on stream may not even find them appointable, given the fact that his constituents would definitely say, look, I'm also looking for jobs. So why do you have to continue with those ones from the former senator or from former House of Reps? So, and those are institutional memory that are lost. But I think that these people are kept, and even if there are change of their principal, if they are kept, like the bureaucracy of the National Assembly will be kept, they will have served as institutional memory for the...
Even in the executive, if a minister goes, another one comes, the bureaucracy remains.
Except their personal aids. Except their personal aids. So these are what plays out. But we can debate the performance of the federal lawmakers in Nigeria. It depends on which side you are looking at it, some will believe that they've done exceptionally well. In fact, they believe themselves that they've done extremely well. Each legislative assembly will say, we've done better than our predecessors. But it is the public that will say, given the quantum of resources at your disposal, you've not given us value for money.
Okay, Jide, I want us to look at two issues in one before we move on to some other issues. One, the recruitment process of the lawmakers, I mean, in terms of getting them elected from primaries. Do we take into consideration that these are people we want to be in charge of our lawmaking, our oversight functions? What are the considerations? That's one. Then two, the high turnover, is it as a result of the electorate's dissatisfaction with their performance, or there are other extraneous issues that come into play?
Exactly. Maybe I should start from the last one. There are extraneous factors beyond performance that comes into play when you are when a lawmaker is seeking re-election. First, you need to understand that there are what is called local power rotation arrangements. So in a senatorial district, you could have as many as 7, 8, 10 local government, depending on the size of your state. In fact, in Kano, you possibly will have about 40. Because there is 44 divided by 3. So every senatorial district will have only, the number. So Osun has 30 local government. So if you divide that, maybe that is equitable. 10, 10, 10 will make each of the senatorial districts. But, so there is this local power rotation arrangement. Look, for senatorial, you do 2 terms and somebody else comes to do 2 terms.
Some even do only one.
Some will say do only one. And then, or maybe if the governor is from a particular senatorial district, they will say, you cannot be your local government cannot produce the governor and still produce the senator. So let another local government produce the senator. Let another one produce House of Reps. Let another one produce State House of Assembly members. So those local power rotation arrangement or zoning may rob us of opportunity to have people re-elected, apart from their concern about their performance. There's also personal ambitions of the individuals concerned. Imagine the president of the Senate wanting to be president. And at some point we are told by the national chairman of APC that he was the consensus candidate before that was kicked against. And if he had been the consensus candidate of the APC, definitely he will not be contesting in 2023 for that same senatorial position. And you could also see quite a number. Look at people who are called GSM. People like Bala Mohammed of Bauchi, who moved from being a senator to even becoming a minister of FCT and thereafter getting to be the governor. Look at someone like Mamora, who was former Speaker of Lagos State House of Assembly and decided to move to Senate, and now he's a minister. Look at even the only female Speaker of Oyo State House of Assembly, I've forgotten her name, who after her tour of duty as Speaker of the State House of Assembly moved to become Senator of the Federal Republic between 2011 and 2015. And so people move to expand or to higher political offices. People move from the executive arm. Look at Doyediri and his deputy in Bayelsa. They were serving senators. Both of them were serving senators from Bayelsa, and they decided that they were going to try their luck in the governorship election of Bayelsa, the last one, and their luck shone. And today they are in the Bayelsa State, the Bayelsa government house.
And they may return to the Senate after their term.
Yeah, of course, it's doable. We have seen that happen before, where people move from Senate to becoming governor. After 8 years, they come back. Look at Oshomole now. He wants to come to the Senate. Benga Daniel wanted to come to the Senate now. They've all won ticket, and you may start saying. So there are a number of reasons beyond performance that may actually make people to not to return into the legislative positions.
Okay. You didn't talk about the other issue, which was the recruitment process. How we bring them on press.
The recruitment process, by law, the recruitment process is not very hard and difficult. It's not. There is no criteria. You don't have to study political science. You don't have to study law. There is no job prescription like, okay, if you are engineering or natural sciences, don't come to the National Assembly. It's a rainbow coalition of people of diverse background or people from all walks of life, both educated and illiterate. Did you know that even the provision, there are constitutional provision that you can have a debate at the floor of the National Assembly in local language,
yes.
and that the bureaucracy will just make provision for
translation.
For translation. So it emphasizes that not all of you will be professorial or will be well read. And what is education anyway? Education is not about having the certificates. It's just about ability to communicate and to lead in a very appropriate manner. So by and large, that's why institutes like National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Study has been established to serve as a training ground for our lawmakers, so that they will bring them at par. And I've been involved in substantially in capacity building for both federal and state lawmakers. As a consultant, I've been involved. So there is already an institute, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, that from time to time build. In fact, not before the inauguration, they take them through like 3 days of induction, and then after inauguration, they stay serially from time to time, give them capacity building training. So there are also some donor agencies, or what I would classify as international non-governmental organizations, that are also building capacity of both federal and state lawmakers. Organizations like Konrad Adenauer Foundation or Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, they build capacity of our parliamentarians. Organizations like Westminster Foundation for Democracy build capacity of young parliamentarians and all of that. So, by and large, this makes for the fact that this is a way the system feels, even if you are from the natural sciences, you are from medicine, you are from accounting background, you are not a social scientist, you can be made to blend and embrace democratic tools and understand how your job will be based on. So that make up for that deficiency. I mean, for those of us who came from the social sciences, we already have learned one or two things about elections, about democracy, about politics. But for them, some of them are just, they knew next to nothing about the electoral processes, about politics, and about even their job description. So that opportunities are there for them to be groomed to be able to deliver on their constitutional mandate.
Well, I know that speaking about capacity, this capacity, the people who are engaged in capacity building, just like yourself and so many others, the frustration would always be there, because it's one thing to build capacity for a one-tenure lawmaker. It's another thing to increase capacity for someone who has been in the system, and nothing beats experience. I remember when I used to cover the National Assembly, each time there is a budget defense and everything, you find the bureaucracy playing around the intelligence of some of these lawmakers who don't know the nitty-gritty of a lot of things involved in the process of lawmaking. But I think that's a story for another day that we will need to explore, because we also need to look at some other circumstances that you have painted while it throws up fresh lawmakers every election cycle. These are issues. But if you're just joining us, this is Insight on Citizen FM 93.7, and Jide Ojo is in the studio. We are looking at the legislative arm of government, challenges and prospects. Please don't go away. We will be back in a moment.
Pleasure ride. Here at last. Join the safest, classiest, and cheapest taxi ride in town. Wavex Taxi Ride for absolute safety and comfort. Available in over 500 cities in Nigeria, Africa, Europe, and America. Download the app now from the Google Store.
Thank you for staying tuned. It's Citizen FM 93.7 and it's Insights. My name is Lawrence Umoette. Jide Ojo is in the studio. Jide Ojo is a media and social political analyst. He's also an author and a columnist, and he's been taking a look at the legislative arm of government, what has been the challenges so far. You can be part of this program now by calling us on 0903 222 9797. That's 0903 222 9797. Or you can also call us on 0808 2222 037. You can also call us on 0818 222 You can also be part of our live streaming on YouTube by typing in Insight, and you will be part of this program. You can also send us WhatsApp messages on any of these numbers. Yes, we already have one here from Dr. Akpese. Yeah, he said he's writing in from Wuse too. He says, it's always a pleasure to listen to Jide Ojo on issues. He makes these issues very simple and easy to comprehend, unlike some analysts who will blow grammar and end up confusing you the more. Well, thank you so much,
Thanks
Doctor.
for the compliment, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor, for writing. And then there's another one here. You didn't put your name. When you send in message, please put in your name and where you're writing in from so that we know. This one says, thank you, Citizen FM, for this topic. We need to beam the searchlight on lawmaking organ, especially the state level. Yes, I agree with you on that, because a lot of things happen in the state that we don't get to hear about. And all the same, let me thank Jide Ojo. Is one of most reliable analysts. That's how he put it. Well, Jide Ojo, they say I should thank you.
I also appreciate them. Thanks for the compliment. You are the one that made me the media oracle.
All right, thank you. Although you didn't put your name, so we don't know your name, but thanks all the same for sending in your message. So, as I said, you can be part of this program. Send us a message on 0808 222 and we will read out your message. So, Jide, let's move on to one critical issue that a lot of people seem to be heavily critical of the lawmakers: the issue of oversight. Let me put it in perspective now. The recent Kuje attack on the Kuje Correctional Facility, a lot of issues came up. One of the issues was when the Senate expressed surprise that there were no CCTV cameras and the facilities. And people were asking questions. We should have a committee on interior, a committee on security, and if the committees have been up and doing, these issues would have been known to them.
Very well. Very well. It cannot be overemphasized, and I should say that each time I get involved in the capacity building and we discuss issues of oversight, many of these lawmakers actually do complain that there are no resources made available to them for proper oversight. You will be shocked that sometimes it's the agency that you want to oversight that will provide you logistics.
Exactly.
And that is inappropriate. It's inappropriate. So they complain of lack of resources, particularly at state level. I mean, I just returned from capacity building of capacity building of Southwest State House of Assembly members just a couple of weeks ago. And this issue, they'll tell us, I mean, point blank, that the reason why they are not performing optimally in their oversight is that the resources are not made available for them to do proper oversight as a when due. And so if you do not mobilize them, and don't think that it's just about transporting yourself to where you are going to oversight. You also need to arm yourself with information, vital information that could help you to make the right decision and judgment and evaluation. So, which is part of the reason why these state houses of assembly have been clamoring for financial autonomy. That many a time, even their allowances are not paid as at when due, which is part of the reason why that constitutional amendment was made to grant financial autonomy to the state houses of assembly as well as state judiciary. But you know how hotly the governors have resisted. Only very handful of them, like Delta, Lagos, and a couple of others, maybe Plateau now has joined. A very handful of them, less than 10, have been able to operationalize the financial autonomy. That's why this was signed into law in 2018. So the governor gives you what he deems fit as your budget. And there are many committees. In fact, part of the reason, part of our recommendation is also that there are too many committees. Committees have now become like what can I compare? Like job for the boys.
Reward. Thank
you. Patronage. Even at the federal level. I do not have the actual figure of how many committees there are in the House of Reps, but they could well be over 100.
They break it down. Sometimes you find in a committee on education, you have like 3 or 4 committees.
Exactly. Committee on higher education, committee on primary education, committee on secondary education. And then people will say, my committee is a Gracie committee. So Gracie committee is not juicy. You know, they talk about juicy committee, committee on appropriation, committee on on petroleum, on communication, on
health.
Those ones that when you go on oversight, even the one oversight is enough to make you smile to the banks. And this is part of what encourages culture of corruption. Because when these people are not well resourced, they will turn to using that oversight to line their pocket. I find it abominable that the agency that you are oversighting is the one that will pay for your logistics, accommodation, transport, and then honorarium. What is honorarium with oversight? It's just like when an invigilator is coming to your school to see where you are teaching the students, and then you pay for her transport, you give her a very handsome honorarium. she cannot say anything bad about your performance. And that's what happens. So the oversight has been commercialized, so to speak. So you look at when you go there, you just do all manner of intimidation. Where are your bring your books? We are very dissatisfied. That is good. Just Oga count down, Oga count down. You know, you are using a countdown. Particularly if they go with the media, they will do the media, the media hype
for the optics.
Then the optics. So they will say, let's go into an executive session with the leadership. So during that executive session, anything can happen.
Jide, you've raised some fundamental issues, but there's also the issue of in terms of how armed are the lawmakers in terms of how strong is their backroom staff, for example. Because, for example, there are some committees, there are some issues that are very technical. And a lawmaker may not necessarily be versed in every aspect in the country. Let me give you an example. A committee on marine transport, and they are going for an investigation on issues that are very technical. I'm aware that in other crimes you have backroom staff that is solid. Before you move out, briefs have been prepared for you as a lawmaker. All you need to do is to sit down with your key staff and go through some of them, so that when you go out, you know what you're talking about. Thus, from your interaction with the lawmakers so far in terms of training and everything, do you have the impression that some of them are prepared for this kind of assignment?
Not all of them. Like I said, the situation at the state level is very abysmal. It's very, very abysmal. When they tell their stories, you empathize with them. You sympathize with them. Because the funding is just not there. I mean, some of them have only 2 aides. 2. In the state, I'm not talking of federal. At the National Assembly level, you may have up to 10, 11 aides. Some with you in Abuja here, some in your constituency office. But even there, you could see the PASAN, Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, being on strike over non-payment of their emolument. You've covered National Assembly, Lawrence. Even until recently, they are still fighting. Did you know for how many months PASAN and Jusun were on strike last year over issue of pressing for the implementation of financial autonomy for State House of Assembly, and even the National Assembly one that already have financial autonomy since 2011, since 2010 actually. They are still clamoring that some of these backroom staff, you call it, they are not well treated, and some of them were just they just pick a very unqualified and unprofessional set of people because they are just political appointees. So you just bring your cousins and your friends and say, okay, you've been bothering me to get you something in Abuja. Okay, can you be my SLA, senior legislative aide? Maybe the guy didn't even have sufficient education to perform the task. You just put him on, you just nominate him to the bureaucracy to serve as your senior legislative aide. And then he cannot do anything. He cannot even do research for you. And the whole essence of having this staff is to be able to help you to do independent research, bring you information that even when you are called upon to come and make a presentation, assuming you are not even doing oversight, come and make presentation at an event, you can make...
Or even in plenary.
Or contributing in plenary. Or even during probe. And you know there are so many probes that have been carried out. And you listen to some lawmakers, they voice their ignorance. Because they are not just prepared. And then even it starts with distributing these people into committees. Many of them that will have been in those relevant committees that are technical, because there isn't money, they didn't see it as a grade A committee. They will even go and protest to the leadership of the National Assembly and say, what kind of nonsense is that now? I know how you became the speaker. I know how you became the president of the Senate. You are not giving me Gracie committee. Did you know how much I spent on my election? That is the usual conversation. So because they see the committee and oversight as opportunity for them to recoup whatever they invested in their election. Don't forget, they don't control budget, unlike the executive. So the executive does not have to behold to anybody. But these people, look at how much they bought nomination for. For those positions, I think for APC it's like Senate is maybe 10 million, House of Reps 5 million, a lot of that. Now, you've paid this much, and you have 5 months of campaigns to do. By the time you finish with your election, you are drained financially. Some of them go for overdraft. Some of them go for they sell off their property. Some of them go for godfathers to bankroll their elections. They are thinking about how to pay back this money they have loaned, or pay back their bank loans, or pay back their godfathers who put down the money for them. So what they are scrambling for, lawmaking will not give them money. You know that. The only thing that gives them representation will not give them money. The only thing that gives lawmakers money is oversight. And oversight means if you are lucky enough to be in the grade A or grade B committee, you can get FTR allowances, honoraria when you go for oversight. Then you can also influence appointments. You get. Look at the very comical issue that took place over the NDDC probe 2 years ago. Off your mic. That off your mic phenomenon. You heard what Senator Godswill Akpabio said when that lady from Rivers was firing and accusing the NDDC of incompetence and fraud and corruption. And the man said, look, my brothers and sisters, you are the one that corner most of the contracts in NDDC. So what are we talking about? And the lady who wanted said, explain yourself. How did that mean? That was what led to the off your mic. Because they know they were guilty as charged. Many of them are contractors and they are not supposed to be. That's already a conflict of interest. Even if you do the contract, even if you execute the contract, it still does not absolve you of complicity. That it's a conflict of interest that you are taking contracts from the same agency that you are oversighting. But you know, that's why I'm linking it to issue of campaign finance. That when people are ready to offer arm and leg to win elections, there is a payback. How do they get back their investment in politics?
Jide, close to this issue you're talking, it's also the issue of pressure, immense pressure from constituents on lawmakers. This is another aspect that makes some of them desperate in terms of trying to reach out to committees that can also bring about enough money.
I agree with you. It's a portfolio. It's not a unilinear thing. There are so many angles to it, but that's where it starts from. Before you even respond to your constituents, you have to tidy in your own angle first. You must have ensured that at least you've recouped whatever you spent on your campaigns and your elections. Then you start answering to innumerable requests from the constituencies. I handled in the last capacity building we did for some of the State House of Assembly. I presented 2 papers, one on corporate social responsibility and the role of lawmaker, and then the other one was on the introduction to social welfare. And in the Q&A session, question and answer, many of them, you will be surprised the kind of requests they get from their constituents. Imagine, because this is this is mass media. I don't want to be too specific so that they won't say, oh, so this honorable came and exposed my request to her or to him. But they write all manner of text messages to us, WhatsApp messages from their constituents. Those who are asking to be sponsored on Hajj, those who are asking to be the honorable member in the state level to come and fund the funeral of their loved ones, or their marriages, or to pay school fees. And is this responsibility of lawmaker? That is not representation in the way and manner that the framers of that responsibility contemplated. It is for them to bring the issues that concerns their constituencies to the attention of the assembly. Not that you will now be doling out money. You know, this was before, this capacity building was done before Salah, and many of them are worried, Steve, about how they are going to meet the need of their constituents for Salah celebration, because they have to buy Salah ram and distribute. Beyond the Salah ram, they still have to distribute rice, distribute other food items to make their constituents happy, and this is not coming cheap. So this is another pressure point that you have raised that has made the lawmakers not to perform. And like I said, it's even worse at the State House of Assembly level, because they live within the state, they live with the people. But the federal lawmakers, they are in Abuja. Before you board a plane or you get on a vehicle to come to Abuja to see a lawmaker that you are not even sure
you
that you will be. But because in the state, all you need to do, you can do multiple travel from the community to the state headquarters, to the state capital, to see your lawmaker, or you will lay at the constituency.
Or you can even go to his country home. You know his village, you know his home.
You know he will come home for maybe a social event and all of that. So that is why, you know, we need to put that issue in context. That's why many of us that are accusing them of non-performance are not fair to them. In fact, some of them, during my sessions, when I took them on these two topics, some of them were near crying that, look, in spite of everything they do for their constituents, they are still asking for more. Some of them are still accusing them of being stingy. That in fact, I had to console one. I said, sir, don't weep over this matter, sir. I said, I feel your pain. Me that is not even a politician. Me that is just this media runs that I do, that you people don't give me money. Please say it to the head of everybody that we don't get paid for this analysis. But what do people out there think? They think that this guy that is a public figure is getting fat honorarium or fat allowances from all these media.
Okay, Jide, before we go, the question I normally ask these lawmakers after all these tales is, why do you seek re-election? If the situation is that bad, why do you always seek re-election at the end of your tenure?
Again, having mastered the trick, it's about survival, it's about relevance, it's about wanting to be close to, power centers. Some of them are very wealthy in their own right. They are very comfortable. They are not actually in politics to look for money, but they are in politics to look for relevance, to look for protection. You get? So that you must make very clear. Some of them are actually, it's about wanting to be where national cake is shared. And who has enough wealth anyway? Who has enough money? Some will say if they were Dangote, they will never work again in their lives. But Dangote is still soldiering on. He wants to be one of the best, one of the wealthiest people in the world. He has conquered Africa. He is said to be the richest man in Africa, yes. But he also wants to be competing with the Elon Musk of this world, with Warren Buffett of this world, with the Bill Gates of this world. That is the spirit of money. So there isn't enough that you get that you say enough. But it's for some people, it's not just about money, it's about relevance. They want to be relevant in the politics of their state, they want to be relevant in the politics of their country, and some will use it to protect their interest. You understand? When you know when you have a clout, like you are a distinguished senator of the Federal Republic, many companies want to have you on their board. You know what that means. So when you have a serving senator on your board, that kind of person can help you lobby for favorable laws that will impact positively on your businesses and all of that, and also to protect your interest. So those are the kind of reasons why you see them wanting to come back and go. And of course, where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? So some people have even taken it as their permanent job. That you'll be surprised. Ask some people, they say, what's your profession? They say politics.
Professional politician.
Professional politics.
Anyway.
So that's part of it. But it's not an insurmountable situation. All we just need is one, keep at it. We don't want military. Let's continue to learn from our mistakes
and make improvements.
Making progress. We are making progress. So it's just that it's snail pace. It's snail pace. And then, of course, when people know that they could be dropped at a re-election, they want to perform, so that at least people will have sufficient trust to keep them going back to the parliament.
Thank you so much, Jidejo. That's how much we can take on this program. Thank you, Jide, for always being available for us. That's the much we can take on Insight today. It's been a very interesting session with Jidejo as we explore the challenges of the lawmaking organ of Nigeria. Insight will return tomorrow with another interesting edition. My name is Lawrence Umoette. Enjoy the rest of your day. News on the Hour comes up next.
Hello, Abuja. You are listening to 93.7 Citizen FM, the latest radio station based in Nigeria's capital. Our station seeks to broadcast a broad mix of culture and views with priority given to development programming to enable residents share ideas and opinions, music and drama. At Citizen FM, we believe in progressive talk and solution-driven conversation. Our aim is to build a united Nigeria by bringing people of diverse culture together through communication. Enjoy listening to 93.7 Citizen FM. We are more than just a radio station. We are a part of your life.
This is 93.7 Citizen FM, Abuja.
The time is 11 o'clock.
Time for news on the hour.
The Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Khali Baba, has deployed senior police officers for July 16th governorship election in Osun State, promising tight security for the exercise. He also moved the Osun State Commissioner of Police, Tahid Olawale, temporarily to the force headquarters until the conclusion of the election. Force Public Relations Officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi disclosed this in a statement, saying the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Force Criminal Investigation Department, DIG Johnson Babatunde Kokumo, would supervise the election To assist Babantunde are 4 Assistant Inspectors General of Police, 4 Commissioners of Police, 15 Deputy Commissioners of Police, and 30 Assistant Commissioners of Police. According to the 4 spokesman, adequate police personnel of the rank of Chief Superintendents of Police and below has equally been deployed for the election. A former executive governor of Borno State, Senator Alimodu Sharif, has congratulated Kashim Shettima on his nomination as the All Progressive Congress vice presidential candidate for the 2023 general elections. In a statement signed by the Director General Alimodu Sharif Campaign Organization, Cairo Ojubo, Alimodu Sharif expressed support for the Tinubu Shettima presidential ticket. Alimodu Sharif stated that he will do everything humanly possible to ensure that the All Progressive Congress APC wins the 2023 elections in landslide. He noted that Shettima personally notified him of his nomination as soon as he was informed of it, adding his blessings to the Tinubu Shettima APC 2023 presidential ticket while imploring all hands to be on deck and work for the unity of the party to ensure its electoral victory in 2023. Shettima therefore urged stakeholders and members of the party to work together to ensure that the APC wins the 2023 presidential election, irrespective of whatever sentiments they harbor. No fewer than 30 million Nigerians are in possession of digital assets, as the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development has rated the West African countries third among countries with the highest number of cryptocurrency holders in Africa. Latest data from the UN agency policy brief indicated that the country was trailing Kenya and South Africa with about 6.3% of the Nigerian population owning or holding cryptocurrencies. From the country's estimated population of 211 million inhabitants, this meant that a little over 13 million were owners of digital currencies in 2021. The UNCTAD policy brief put Kenya ahead of Nigeria and South Africa with the highest proportion of crypto-owning inhabitants than any other African country. Kenya's digital currency ownership of 8.5% as a share of the population was the highest in Africa and the 5th highest globally. Only Ukraine with 12.7%, Russia 11.9%, Venezuela 10.3%, and Singapore 9.4% have a higher proportion of crypto-owning residents than Kenya globally. South Africa was second-ranked country in Africa and 8th globally, with 7.1% of the population that owned or held cryptocurrencies in 2021. And that was 11 a.m. news compiled by Lawrence Umoette. To listen to us online, please visit www.citizenfm.ng. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook at CitizenFM Abuja, on Instagram and Twitter at CitizenFM937, and I am Muna Aka. Up next is Battle of Opinions. To stay with us.